Smokey Robinson. You won't believe what never made it into the liner notes. Behind the sparkle of hit records and sold-out tours was a machine obsessed with image polishing every smile, scripting every romance, and burying anything that didn't fit the picture. These were friends who grew up together, made music together, and covered for each other when the spotlight got too bright. They were a family, just not the kind the public was allowed to see. Now, let's talk about the truth that lived between the grooves. Billy Preston. He was the virtuoso who could light up any stage working with rock royalty one day and cutting his own smashes the next. But the applause couldn't drown out what he'd carried since childhood. Abuse that stole his safety and scrambled his sense of self. As he rose, faith and identity pulled at him from opposite ends, leaving a knot that wouldn't budge. When he joined the label in the late 70s, the family-friendly playbook demanded silence. Smile for the cameras. Keep it moving. He did, until heartbreak walking in on a partner with a famous band leader sent him into a tailspin. Friends would later say, that's when he stopped trying to pretend. The music stayed brilliant, but the mask got heavier. Studio triumphs, private torment. A habit burning cash faster than any royalty check. Only near the end did he finally say out loud what he'd been holding in. Imagine carrying that weight for decades while playing the happiest keys in the room. Kendricks. The falsetto that floated like silk over classic grooves, pure romance, effortless charm. The public got the dream. The gentle heartthrob, tailored suits, bouquets on stage. The private reality was more complicated. Image was managed down to the pose and the +1. If whispers started, the machine responded with photo ops and carefully placed stories. After a while, even leaving the group couldn't free him from the role. He kept singing about longing because he understood it at a level most people never will. What it means to want something you can't name in public. He wasn't difficult. He was protecting what little of himself he could. David Ruffin. The voice on My Girl could bend steel. On stage, swagger, roses, the archetypal ladies' man. Off stage, a person under brutal pressure to perform a very specific kind of masculinity at all times. The label leaned hard into that persona, headlines about romances, glossy profiles, endless myth-making. Meanwhile, the gap between the performance and the person widened, and the coping got messier. People talked about missed shows and chaos. Few talked about why someone might run from a life that never lets them be honest. Sometimes, the most fearless voice on the record belongs to the most frightened person in the room. Florence Ballard. She helped build a sound that defined an era, but the image she was asked to sell, glamour aimed squarely at male approval, didn't fit. That friction turned into loneliness. Every photo shoot, every TV spot, every wink to the camera was another moment she had to perform a version of womanhood that felt like a costume she didn't pick. The more she pulled back, the more she was labeled difficult, when really she was exhausted from pretending. Her exit is often reduced to money and missed cues. The fuller story is a woman caught between a once-in-a-lifetime gift and a system that punished her for not playing along. Johnny Bristol. You've heard his feelings in other people's voices. He wrote and produced the kind of love songs that sneak up on you and never leave. The secret sauce? Real emotion, often encoded. When you can't live your truth out loud, you learn to tuck it into bridges and harmonies. In the studio, he could be honest in ways the world wouldn't allow, crafting lines that worked one way for the masses and another for those tuned to the frequency. That double meaning wasn't a trick, it was a survival skill. The work felt universal because it was deeply, specifically true. Norman Whitfield. He rewired the sound. Dense, daring, psychedelic storms that somehow still hit the charts. Those layered productions, voices stacked upon voices, rhythms fighting and hugging, felt like someone scoring the sensation of living two lives at once. There were rumors, always managed, never addressed. No matter, the record said plenty. Psychedelic described more than the wah-wah pedals. It captured the confusion of identity in a world that only recognized one script. If you've ever felt like you had to be different people in different rooms, you already understand his arrangements. Martha Reeves commanding, electric, a leader, every time the lights went up. And somehow, that strength had to be sanded down off stage to keep the image soft and romantic. Publicists steered the narrative toward dresses and dates, away from the qualities that actually made her great authority. Independence, a voice that could move a crowd like weather. Speculation swirled and was stamped out, so she kept the real relationships separate from the stage lights and let the songs do the talking. When she shouted about dancing in the streets, that was freedom 3 minutes at a time. Marlon Jackson. The stakes here were sky high. This wasn't just a group, it was a phenomenon marketed as the perfect family. Any deviation from Boy Next Door threatened a mountain of money and a carefully constructed dream. Inside that pressure cooker, a more sensitive, artistic kid read as risk, and risk was not allowed. Appearances were arranged, narratives tightened, and individuality trimmed to fit the frame. Growing up is hard enough, without the world watching and deciding who you're allowed to be. The shift from child star to adult artist didn't just require new songs. It required a new identity that the system didn't want to let him have. Now, remember how friendly rivalries and protective instincts ran through that whole scene? You could hear it in the way some members joked about who should sing, which song, or who owned a signature hit. Underneath the teasing was love and competition and a code of silence. If someone's truth threatened the brand, the circle closed ranks. That's what families do, especially show business families. Defend, deny, and keep the train on time. If you felt this, if it changed how you'll hear these records next time, stick around. Drop a like, share this with the one friend who knows every harmony, and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive into the stories behind the songs. And tell me in the comments, which voice from this story do you hear differently now? Smokey Robinson. You won't believe what never made it into the liner notes. Behind the sparkle of hit records and sold-out tours was a machine obsessed with image polishing every smile, scripting every romance, and burying anything that didn't fit the picture. These were friends who grew up together, made music together, and covered for each other when the spotlight got